Hello everyone, welcome to today's presentation of the Atlassian user group. Sorry, I'm back. So I hope you guys had a good weekend. How many of you guys have attended the Maker Fair? What do you guys like the most there?
We're always spitting fire.
That's kind of almost every year they have there. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, Maker Fair is kind of a, as they say, it's a British show and tell on the earth, where kind of it's a celebration of the maker movement, where people kind of showcase what they made and kind of try to share the knowledge and kind of encourage the maker within you. So I myself had been there, and I thought it's worth mentioning here. Something if you haven't attended this year, maybe next year it's kind of a good thing to attend with your family. Next, so next about myself, I'm a system admin at Pandora. I kind of, as you can see, I pretty much manage all the Atlassian stack there. We have been big time user for the Jira, Confluence, then Fisheye Crucible. Very recently we added the Stash as our Git repository solution. And also now we are kind of checking out Atlassian HipChat. So we have here IT manager Thomas from our Pandora. So if any one of you guys are using the HipChat, I'm sure he will be trying to kind of talk with you. Thank you. And next I want to introduce my partner in crime, Mr. Nick. He's not here today because either he's already a father, new father, or going to be a new father very soon. We really don't know, but he's kind of in that kind of a place. So when he's not going to be a father, he works at Twitter, and he's an agile coach. If you have any questions about Scrum methodology or agile thing, he's your guy to go. Okay? This is our agenda for today. So we're going to be a little bit late behind the schedule. So we'll start with the Xero. They are our great host here. They're kind of providing this nice location with a great view, and obviously the very good kind of a food here. So I'm going to ask Oliver from the Xero to come over here in a couple of minutes and give the introduction about what is Xero, what they do. If you haven't heard about Xero, this is the right time to kind of know more about them. Followed by, we'll have Confluence questions by Terence, Atlassian guy. He's going to talk about what is questions, and if you have any questions, you can definitely ask him. Then later we'll followed by HipChat. So HipChat is, as I said, it's a kind of a Confluence Atlassian chat solution. So Patty Chan from Intradia is going to help us to kind of how they are using the solution and what their kind of feedback about this particular tool. Followed by, we'll have one kind of a small Emily will going to kind of present about user testing with Atlassian. She's going to talk about 2 minutes what kind of testing she's looking from the user audience here. Then we'll have QMetry with Jira Agile. So Michael from Dell is going to talk about Agile along with the how they are using along with the QMetry. So that will be also kind of interesting talk that you would like to attend. After that, we'll have a kind of few minutes break if everybody wants. And later, this time we are trying to kind of make the presentation more interactive. So we are trying to kind of try a couple of few different things. So as a part of that, one thing that we are trying to do is kind of ask audience to kind of be participant into the talks. So we are kind of suggesting and encouraging our audience to give a 5-minute lightning talk. Just any topic that you like to, that something is useful, something that can make people laugh, or something that you want to talk about.
So I'm just going to jump in real fast there. My name is Holly Golden. I'm a community manager at Atlassian, so I work on the Auth program and get to work very closely with Raju and Nick on all this awesome stuff that they have going on here. Real quick about the micro talks, it's something that we saw happen in London and in St. Louis, and people were really excited about it. So whoever wants to volunteer, you get up, you get 1 minute to either talk about something really cool that you're doing with our tools, or you can talk about something that you really want to troubleshoot with the crowd, and then you have 3 minutes for everybody to ask you questions about this cool thing you're doing, or give you some suggestions or solutions for what you're trying to troubleshoot with our tools.
Yes, and if you're part of that gang, you will going to get something as a raffle prize here, okay? Other than we have a few kind of, everybody is going to get some prize, but it is the grand prize that we will have.
It's a Bluetooth speaker.
Yes. Yes. So, and next Atlassian Summit is going to happen in September. So I think we want to talk about.
Yeah, just real fast. How many of you guys have been to Atlassian Summit before? Okay, quite a few of you. So it is our user conference that we have every year. It's basically an AUG on steroids. It's your best opportunity to meet tons of other customers and hear really great best practices that other teams are using. Hear from different Atlassians and kind of troubleshoot with them at our Guru Bar. There's a million things that you can do, a million people that you can meet. It's all about Atlassian for the whole time. We offer training on September 9th. It's a little bit more specialized than the tracks that we offer at Summit. And because you're an AUG member, you get a 10% discount. So if you want to write down AUG_Sanfran 10 CA, you can get a 10% discount when you register for the conference. And if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to me. I'm Holly at Atlassian, or you can reach out to events at Atlassian and get all your questions.
And now, without further ado, I would like to kind of call for Oliver. And guys, please give him a big hand because these guys are awesome workers.
Bear with me 2 seconds.
And while Oliver gets set up, we accidentally left off one of our sponsor logos on our presentation. So we've got someone from QMetry here if you want to raise your hand. Also one of our awesome sponsors.
Guys, can give him a big hand.
So welcome everybody. Just before we get started, who's heard of Xero before you signed up for the AUG event?
I think it's an Arabic numeral.
It's an Arabic numeral, that's the first one. Not quite. So welcome tonight. It's really great to host this event. We have this beautiful space, and it's it is here to be shared. So hopefully this is kind of the first of many that we can open up the doors to host. Hopefully that's going to move on. So that's me and Sid. So I'm only going to talk for about 1 minute, and we're going to hand over to Sid, who heads up our developer relations here at Xero. So what is Xero? So it sounds quite dull. We build online accounting and payroll for small businesses. But we do that to basically make the lives of small businesses a lot easier. They didn't go into business to become an accountant or to do their payroll admin. They go into business to become a florist, a coffee shop owner. They make jams, they consult on projects. So we're all about making their lives easier, and we do that through software. Just some kind of stats around who we are. We're currently at last official, we are a publicly listed company, 284,000 paying orgs globally. We're obviously now in May, so that number's gone up, but can't tell you exactly the number. We've got 10,000 accounting partners worldwide. Now what that means is we work with accountants, bookkeepers, financial advisors, so they can help their clients. It's not just about selling direct to a small business. We work with the accountants, we build accountant software as well. More on that later. Probably closer to 700 staff now. We release at least a couple of times each month across multiple product lines, and everything doubles every year. This is kind of our mantra. This time next year, there'll be probably 200 people downstairs instead of 100, and a very fast-paced environment. This kind of sums up what we do. We're in the cloud. We were born in the cloud. We've never produced desktop software, and we never will. 100% SaaS, and the cloud is the biggest change to hit small businesses ever. We're all used to the cloud. A big business is used to the cloud. The small business is finally waking up to the benefits of the cloud. No IT infrastructure in the corner that they have to maintain and keep up to date and install CDs. It's all around, obviously, all the benefits of the cloud, which the vast majority of you, I'm sure, understand. And everything we do starts with design. Everybody says they're a design-led software company. It's all about the user experience, but we kind of mean it. Everything we do is around the experience for the customer. And a small business owner is not an accountant, they're not a payroll expert. And it's hard. That stuff is really hard to do. Believe me, I have to build it. And our job is to make that so easy that it's painless for them. And obviously design and user experience is a key part of that. And obviously, just a little bit of a plug. We're obviously always recruiting. We are growing very fast. we are always looking for good people. So if you know of anybody, if it's not yourself, that you would like to refer in, careers at Xero.com, and that's our lovely, oh my god, Xero is like riding a unicorn across the universe. So that kind of sums up what our customers think of us, which is awesome. This is a bit about the Xero platform. So Sid's going to take over in about 30 seconds. Everything in the top half, online accounting software and practice studio, is what we build internally. It's about the tools for small businesses to manage their business. And we produce software for accountants and bookkeepers to manage their business. And in the bottom left-hand corner is our kind of connected service, which is where I'm going to hand over to Sid to talk you through our ecosystem. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Sid Maestri. I do developer relations here at Xero. In a previous life I did evangelism, so now I'm more dealing with all these strategic partners and having conversations around Xero's ecosystem. So why an ecosystem? Why do we have add-on partners? So what we have are these integrated add-on applications. Essentially what we're trying to do is fill in the gaps inside our product. We feel that we do accounting really, really well, but small businesses need more than just accounting software. They need things like point of sale, they need a CRM, they need an e-commerce store. We're not going to build all those things, but we also know that those systems generate a lot of financial data that small businesses want to go into an accounting package. And so we've developed this way of helping these businesses. This is the world as it existed before the cloud, with all these separate systems, none of them talking to each other, no data flowing between them. And so what we've done is we've developed an API and this concept of an ecosystem. We have over 300 add-on partners and 250 add-on partners and over 300 add-ons that are integrated with Xero at this point. And so we have these things, our magical APIs, as I like to call them, powered by the rainbow parts of unicorns. But in reality, we just have a very, very well-designed API. Has anyone done any integrations with accounting packages at this point? Maybe one back there. So while this pitch may not be for you, you may know somebody who's doing a startup or has a product that's designed for small businesses. If you know someone like that and you think they might be a good match for becoming an add-on partner with Xero, please let them know about this, because it's a really great opportunity. We have this nicely designed API. It's easy to work with, RESTful, of course. I say we're on version 2. I think it's important because we've been on version 2 for about 5 years now. Which doesn't mean we're on version 2.0. We're on like 2.4 something, 49 or something. We're always improving, but we're very, very stable. So we always add new features, but we don't break our API, unlike other people out there who have APIs for developers. So it's something we really, really believe strongly about, is creating a stable environment for developers to work in. We have these great API docs. We have an API previewer, lots of different languages. We support sample libraries you can download and play with. And I think if you know of anybody, please let them know. Go to developer.xero.com. There's a partner tab. They can fill out a form. That shoots an email to me, and then we can start a conversation about how they can get integrated with Xero and start pushing data in and out of Xero and making the lives of small businesses better. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Next we have Confluence questions. Terence?
Before Terrence comes up, we also forgot to mention the bathrooms are there in the back
Oh,
on the
yeah.
left, so you're not wandering around and confused, and the food's back here if you haven't discovered it already.
And if you need a Wi-Fi, password is mentioned bottom line, X public.
That's not an
Everything
age.
zeros. Okay? Terence, thank you.
How's it going, everyone? This is my first user group presentation, so hopefully it goes successfully. on that slide.
That's what you do.
But my name is Terrence Caldwell. I'm an Atlassian product marketer focusing on Confluence. I've been at Atlassian since August 2011. So I'm approaching my third year at the company this year. I'm from Denver, Colorado, and I love Coors beer and Denver sports teams. Unfortunately, I can't talk about Coors beer and how the Denver Broncos are going to win the Super Bowl this year, but I can talk about Q&A and how we use Q&A at Atlassian and how we produce Confluence questions. So here's just a really quick agenda of what I'm going to cover. So first, why Q&A? And then second, I'll look at Confluence questions, which is the Confluence add-on that uses the Q&A platform on top of Confluence. Finally, and then I'll talk about just some really quick tips and tricks and ways that you can make Confluence questions and Q&A successful for your company. And then look at what's new and what we've recently shipped for Confluence questions. So the first question is, why Q&A? And simply because historically that's the easiest way for people to get the answers to their questions. So if you use the web, if you want an answer to a question that you have, you might perform a simple Google search, which will give you a lot of responses. It'll give you a lot of resources, but Google isn't specifically designed to answer questions. So there are other public sites like Stack Overflow. Who in here is familiar with Stack Overflow or uses it? Okay, so everyone here. So Stack Overflow is specifically designed for answering questions. So they have a whole community of developer and technical people who go up and they ask specific questions, and they crowdsource the answers and get the best technical responses. And a lot of times those answers are concrete and discrete answers. There are other applications or other websites like Quora. How many people are familiar with Quora? About the same amount of people are familiar with Quora. So Quora, just like Stack Overflow, is specifically designed as a Q&A platform. You go on and you ask questions, and people give you answers. Except the difference between Quora and Stack Overflow is that a lot of the questions and answers that you're going to get on Quora are a lot more open-ended. And so you're going to be getting a lot of opinion and a lot of advices. You can go on Quora and ask, what do I do in case of the next zombie apocalypse? Or you can ask things like, what are the best practices for building an email drip feed? So things are a lot more open to interpretation, but just the same, specifically designed for giving you quick answers and responses to your questions. So for those of you who enjoy really old, ugly, bad web interfaces, this next slide is for you. So forums is another way that a lot of organizations or companies have kind of built Q&A into their products or answered the questions of their customers. So this was actually the Atlassian forums, circa like 2010. And so we got a lot of traffic to the forums, and we were getting a lot of questions, and we were getting a lot of useful information. But it looked like crap, so we decided to sexify it, and so we came up with Atlassian Answers. Anyone in the audience familiar with Atlassian Answers? Okay, so a lot less of you, but Atlassian Answers is Atlassian's own public forum, and it's great for allowing our huge community of really technical users to answer the questions of our other customers. So it's a great way for new beginning users or even advanced users to go and get answers to really specific Atlassian related questions. So we had Atlassian Answers.
Quick plug, if the question is not Atlassian specific, but it is IT specific, check out IT Ninja. Just thought I'd slide that in there.
I like that. So we had this really successful Answers platform. We put a lot of time and effort and energy into making Answers successful, and we learned a lot of things kind of about how Q&A works and how Q&A can be successful. And a lot of our customers and a lot of our internal stakeholders asked, how can we take those lessons that we've learned and how can we use those internally to benefit ourselves as well as some of our customers. And we particularly had a pretty kind of interesting predicament because we have Confluence, which is this great collaboration platform where it's really easy to push information to the people that you know that it belongs to. So I can create a page and I push it to all the people who I know would be interested in it. But it's really difficult to kind of get the information that you don't know already, or you get the information from people who you don't know are experts in a specific topic. So that's how we kind of formed Confluence Questions, kind of taking our insights with answers, combining it with the collaboration aspect that we had with Confluence and creating this product that would make it really easy to share information internally within your company using Q&A. So why is Q&A valuable? We kind of went over it. First of all, it kind of goes back to when we were first learning. Q&A is the easiest and fastest way to get answers. It's something we learned from a very early age. Second, you also kind of leverage all of the people around you when you're using Q&A. So if you don't know the answer, you normally can find someone who does. And we live in such an open company, an open environment with the web that it's usually pretty easy to find people who have the answer to the question you're looking for. And then finally, Q&A makes tribal knowledge and that abstract knowledge more searchable and more obtainable. So all that stuff that's in people's heads, it documents it and puts it in a place where people can use that and leverage it. So now, kind of take you through some of the major features and go through the actual product itself, Confluence Questions. So they're a big kind of, back to that. So there are three big goals that we have for Confluence Questions, and these are kind of the big overall benefits. Extracting tribal knowledge, which goes back to, again, pulling all that information that, makes up your company's brain and making that accessible, retaining that knowledge so that when people leave a company, their knowledge doesn't. And then, again, identifying experts. So all those people who have the knowledge that you need to be successful, you just don't know who they are. Confluence Questions makes it really easy for those people to shine through. And so Confluence Questions kind of works with questions, topics, experts, and then the Confluence platform. So we'll start with questions. So at Atlassian, we have close to 800 people distributed across several different countries. So if I have a question that I have to, and I need to know the answer for it, sometimes it can be really difficult to find that answer, and it can be difficult to find the person who knows that answer. So instead of sending out an email or asking around, it's really easy to post a Confluence question. And again, you can leverage the Confluence editor to make your questions as rich as you want. So you can add screenshots, images, code snippets, videos to make those questions really powerful so people can answer them as well really fully. So then anyone from across the company can come in and see my question posted, and they can start giving me answers. And that's what we call kind of crowdsourcing so that I can get to the right answer. And so once you start having these answers coming from across the organization, it's really easy for everyone to come in and start voting up the answer so that you get a top response, and that's kind of the accepted answer. Just the same way that Stack Overflow works or Quora works, so that you're using kind of everyone's collective knowledge to not only get answers, but also find the best answer and to save that answer for future reference. So I just asked a question about using Agile. But what if I want to know more information about the Agile topic itself? So that's where topics come into play in Atlassian Questions. So you can have these topics that cover a wider range of areas. So you can see here, these are some of the topics that we have in our internal instance, stuff like build engineering, marketing, Confluence. These are all really popular topics that people ask about. And you can check out that topics page in Confluence Questions. So this is the actual specific topic page for the term agile. So anything that I want to know, any questions that have been asked, any answers that have been given about that term agile or about agile development show up here in the agile topic. And you see I have a quick description that kind of gives me context for the topic. And then I can watch this topic. So if I want to know about any questions that are asked about agile, if I want to know about people who have answered questions about agile, I can watch this topic and get email notifications. So here you can see I get an email notification because a new question was asked about agile. And this is kind of how we create a transfer of knowledge. So not only am I finding out, not only can I ask or answer questions about agile, but then I can continue to build my knowledge on it. So if I'm new and I'm working on the Jira Agile team, I can follow this topic, and all the conversations that happen around that topic, I can know about them. So it's not only people who are already existing experts who answer questions, but people can become experts by following the topics. So speaking of experts, experts are the people who are in your office and they know about these things, and all that information is normally trapped in someone's brain. And unless you know exactly who to go to for a project, you might not know who experts are. So in Confluence questions, you can look for the top experts by topic. There's a leaderboard, and it's gamified, so all the questions that you ask and answer, you receive points for. And then you can also see the global experts. So these are the top experts across all the topics, and you can see them all on one page. So these are kind of the gurus in the company. And as you grow and as you have more people, it's really valuable to know who those kind of gurus are in your company. And if you want to dig a little deeper, you can click on an individual's profile, and you'll see all the questions that they've asked, all the questions that they've answered, and what answers that they've given that have become the accepted answers for those questions. So again, making it really easy for the experts in your company to shine without having to be vocal experts. Like people can go to Confluence questions and see who the experts are in every field. And finally, all of this is powered and on top of the already powerful content collaboration platform of Confluence. And we really take advantage of that in questions. So like I said, it's really rich content. You can add images, you can add snippets of code in a question or a response. You can embed Jira issues in a question or a response. You can make use of all the keyboard shortcuts that you already use in Confluence with Confluence questions. And again, you can embed videos. So just making all your questions and answers really rich. So it's not just text. It's not just a sentence or a sentence question, a sentence answer. It's really, you can get really kind of robust questions and answers. You can also use the share button to share with experts. So if you know that someone, your PM, might be knowledgeable about Agile, you can share a question with them so that you can pull in their input. You can also use @mentions. So we use @mentions quite a bit. So someone's answering a question IT related, they can @mention the IT manager to bring them in. So just again, these are all ways to leverage Confluence to bring in the people that you know might be useful in a certain question and bring them to the surface. You also have Centralized Search. So you have all of your information, your documents in Confluence, and you can search across all that information in Confluence as well as your questions and answers in Confluence questions. So if I'm pulling a search about Agile methodologies, I'm going to see all of my Confluence pages that reference that, as well as questions and answers on that search results page. And then I can also ask a question. So if I don't see the result or the answer I'm looking for, I can ask for it right there from the search results page. So that's kind of a feature tour of all the stuff that we have in Confluence questions. I'm just going to kind of show you some of the new stuff that we've launched. So if you're using Confluence questions now, I don't know, how many of you are actually using Confluence questions already? Okay, so a few people. Yeah, Atlassian. So these are some of the new features that we've just released in the last month. So So you have the questions list macro, which is a macro that you can put in any Confluence page that allows you to see a list of questions from a specific topic. So if you're building like an agile resources page, you can embed a questions list in there with all the questions and answers related to agile. So it makes it really quick to embed like an FAQ, or to make some of your Confluence pages a little more dynamic and live. Nice. Yeah, so again, you can then ask a question also from the Confluence page. We now have Confluence questions on mobile, so you can take questions with you. If you just tap the left of your Confluence app, you'll see that questions is now there in your mobile app, so you can search through questions and answers on the go. You can see a list of like popular questions. So again, just the same as on your desktop, you have access to your topics. You can ask new questions, you can watch questions, and you can also search for questions all from your mobile device. So now that you know why we find Q&A valuable and you've kind of seen Confluence questions, once you guys all start your trials of Confluence questions after this, how do you make it successful in your companies? So we kind of put together these really quick, simple ways that you can make a Confluence questions instance successful, and these are all things that we followed at Atlassian when we rolled it out just a year ago. So the first thing is seeding content. So that's putting questions in your Confluence instance site that you know people are going to be asking. So one quick way that we got a lot of people using Confluence questions is we started putting questions about HR policies, as well as some IT-related questions. So the things that we knew people were asking about, like where do I find the printer, where do I find these resources, we seeded our site with those questions so that we knew people would go, and we knew that people would be able to answer those questions. The second thing is recruiting internal experts. So you know who the people are in your organization who know things. So really instrumental in our efforts were HR. So they have access to a lot of the HR policies and stuff that people ask about regularly. We really wanted to actively engage our HR team so that they were answering these questions and providing really valuable answers to those questions in the site. Also getting executives. So once a month at Atlassian, we have an all-staff presentation, and that's normally where in San Francisco, Jay, who's the CEO, gives an update. President of the company gives an update. And so before every all-staff, he would basically open up a Confluence question on the site and ask, hey, what are some of the questions that you guys want answered at the end of the all-staff? So getting that executive buy-in and getting someone who has valuable information to buy into Confluence questions was really important. And a lot of people started asking questions there. And then finally announce it. We've seen that a big part of it is just letting people know that you have this new, really valuable tool and you want to use it and you want to take advantage of it. We've seen through customers like Gap. We went into the Gap office and they had posters up of go ask your questions and Confluence questions. They sent an email out to everyone saying, you know, ask your questions because at the end of the day, it's valuable. It's less taps on your shoulder. It's less HipChat notifications. So announce it and get people excited about it. So you can't see that bottom part, but it's connect questions with answers. And again, this is kind of connecting the outstanding questions that you might have, because again, when not everyone's using the site at first, you might not get timely responses. So it's, again, sharing those questions, mentioning people to get the right people to answer those questions. And then Tom Cruise tells Cuba Gooding Jr., help me help you. So it's encourage good behavior and encourage people to ask questions and encourage people to answer those questions. So if someone asks you a question in HipChat or if someone asks you a question in email, tell them, put it in questions. So that's Confluence questions. You can find out more about it on our website, Atlassian.com/questions. Really valuable tool. We think that it's really easy for people to get started with. It's Q&A. It doesn't get much more difficult than that, and we think it's a really valuable tool, especially for those people who are already using Confluence, already have your information stored. It's a great thing to put on top of it. So thank you all. Do we have time for Q&A?
Yeah,
Slide for that.
I have one question. So is this going to be a new Confluence instance or it's an add-on to the existing Confluence?
It's an add-on for the Confluence instance, yeah. So and it's a good question because you have to have Confluence to have Confluence questions.
Kind of like calendars.
Exactly like Calendar, same pricing as well, where it's 50% of the original.
Do you want to have the ability to secure certain sections of the form so that I can allow it to be public and private at the same time?
Yes, I believe so. I believe that the permission scheme is similar to Confluence.
Is it possible to ask and or answer questions anonymously?
No, it is not possible to do that.
Is it possible to convert a question into a page?
I don't think it's possible yet, but that's one of the things we're working on. We're working on being able to convert both questions to pages and also converting like HipChats into questions. So both those integrations are things that we're working on.
Suppose we try and we don't like it, what happens to the data?
To the data. I'm actually not positive. That question has been asked.
It gets encrypted and you can retrieve it for a nominal fee.
No, that's not the answer. That's not the answer. I'm actually not sure what happens to that data. I'm pretty sure it has to be saved somewhere in Confluence. I'm not sure what that format looks like. But yeah, that's a good question. It's one that we were asked at Summit. I can't remember. Just figure that out.
Where would I get the answer? Because that would basically determine whether we try it.
Where did you try it? Could you send me an email? T. Caldwell
I should create a question.
at Atlassian.
It's probably answered at Atlassian Answers.
Yeah, you can ask that answers, but just to make sure that I get back to you, it's T. Caldwell at Atlassian.com.
Here, you can use my card and I'll give you a message to you.
So any other question?
Oh, so what size of org do you see as the minimum being able to make use out of this product?
I think any size org.
Depends on how shabby.
One person.
One person, ask questions, get your own answers. You're the smartest expert.
You should have one person to ask a question and one person to answer.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, you must be concentrating your marketing efforts on a certain minimum size, right? So what is that?
I think it's kind of small, medium-sized businesses, 50 plus. The thing about it, like kind of 50 plus users, but the thing about it is, even if you're a small company and you might have 10 users, like it's all about kind of capturing knowledge. So you might know something and I hope that you would want to build out and become bigger. And it's like all those things that you know that help people onboard faster, you can capture them in Confluence questions. So even if you're a small team, there's still that tribal knowledge that you have that could really be useful in any new people that you hire or anyone else in general.
But you said you could allow public access, right? So senior managers that don't have their credentials could also view the Q&A?
Yeah, so that you. Sorry, say that again.
No, it's yes or no in regards to can those that don't have login credentials or that's not part of the EU can actually see the Q&A side as well.
Yeah, if you turn on guest access.
Cool. Thank you, Terence. Thank you. So with that, I would like to invite, basically you heard about the HipChat a lot, right? So this is a presentation where Patty will go over the HipChat, how they're using that in 3D. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Patty Chan. I head up project management at a company called Intridia, and I'm actually going to talk about how we use a couple different Atlassian products at our company, not just HipChat. little bit about myself and Intrudia for a second. What we do is we're a consulting company. We build custom web and mobile applications for various clients, from startups to Fortune 50. But what's really unique about us is that we are, there we go. We are 100% distributed. So we've got about 40 people scattered across every time zone in the US, as well as some places outside of the US. And for example, we've got some Rails developers in China. And we love working this way. So we've been working this way since day one. We were founded 6 years ago on this belief that you should be able to live and work from anywhere you want. And so we really use these tools that Atlassian makes to make that happen. We know that it's hard sometimes. We've certainly had some struggles through our years. And these are just some of those complaints, questions that I inevitably get when I tell people that this is how I work, that I work from home in coffee shops and anywhere in the world. Since I only have 10 minutes, I'm only going to focus on that second question there, which is a complaint that I hear a lot, which is decisions can only be made in person. And I want to break that down a little bit, because this is really where our tools come in to solve that problem for us. I'm going to break that down a little bit because it kind of implies two things. It implies, one, that if I'm saying this, all of my decisions are so important and so critical that everybody else has to drop what they're doing, get in a room with me behind closed doors and hash something out. The second thing that this implies is that these decisions that I'm making are so complex and so unique that we need hours and hours to hash it out. Whereas this is true of many decisions, it's actually not true of the majority of decisions. It just isn't. And so what I usually say to this kind of comment is that, what kind of decisions are you really making? And can we be a little bit more human about it? What do I mean by be more human? Maybe I mean be more humane. Meaning, can we let go of this belief that everything needs to happen right now, as a fire drill, and drop everything? Wouldn't it be great if the decisions that we made throughout our day were not fire drills? So, we use tools to solve this problem. Now, this is not to say that we don't talk to each other face to face. We actually have a whole bunch of video conferencing tools and video chats. And with HipChat video rolling out, we actually use that a whole ton. We can't wait till it gets multiple users. We actually jump on these things a lot, but we also use a whole ton of HipChat. HipChat is really the glue that keeps our company together. We are on HipChat all day, every day. That's how we communicate. I'll talk a little bit more about how we use HipChat in a second. But what really drives our entire company is having this trust in asynchronous communication. So again, there are a lot of things that happen throughout our company throughout the day. Lots of projects, lots of decisions, but our company is really driven by this ability to let go of everything happening right now. So throw a question out there, but position yourself so that you don't need that answer immediately. And again, we have tools, we use tools, we hack them to make this possible. So I put together this next slide just to highlight some examples of how we use these tools. We do use almost the entire Atlassian suite, primarily Jira, Confluence, HipChat, and a bunch of different add-ons too. We're just now starting with questions. So again, a couple examples of how we maybe use some of these tools a little bit more uniquely. So Confluence, starting with that, this is really about that over-communication. So the way that we get around fire drill decision making is to plan really far in advance. We over-communicate, we think about edge cases and things that might come up later now, so that we talk about it now, instead of the minute before a developer sits down and writes code. So if you look at our Confluence and our Jira tickets, there's probably a lot more information in there that you might normally expect. One example is using Confluence to share our design mockups. So we still hop on a screen share with our clients in order to do presentations for that first show and tell. But leading up to that and after that, we use Confluence to share our mockups. A couple reasons. We love the formatting that Confluence gives. put the mock-up up there and take almost the entire width of the page, or show thumbnails if you need to. So we use the comment threads underneath for the designer to document all their thoughts and motivations going into that design phase, and then afterwards, that's how we capture all the changes made too. We often give our clients direct access into our Confluence and type in their change request right inside there. So it's fully integrated into our workflow. We don't have that much separation between kind of our clients and ourselves. Another example is how we use Jira. So we live mostly in Jira Agile boards, Scrum boards. We love these things. We rarely use the issues view. And we customize the board. You typically see 3 columns, I believe, in the default. We added 2 just to match up our development flow a little bit better. So we've got our typical, I'm going to walk you through our development ticket flow. We've got our to-dos, typical, in progress once a developer starts working on it. And we've also got 2 other columns ready for review. We've got a big code review culture. So our code is hosted on a version control, and when you develop a new feature, you set up a pull request for all those engineers in the room. And simply dragging and dropping one of those tickets to that next column cues somebody else, a tech lead or another team member, to go and check on that pull request, do the code review, merge them. And then we've got another column for deployed for QA. This is a signal that, all right, it's got pushed up to staging and it's ready for a QA engineer or a PM to go in there and verify that the feature is working. And then finally, we've got that accepted. The fact that it's that easy to drag and drop between columns means that it makes it easy to over-communicate. So again, we like over-communication. That's something that makes us all work. We don't have to explicitly type in a comment that says, hey, I pushed this to staging, so-and-so, can you please go verify it? That so-and-so can just look at this board, go down the list, and they know what is in what status. And then finally, HipChat. I love talking about how we use HipChat because I'm pretty proud of our setup. We have a project room for every client project that they're working on. That project team, that's their space. But we've also got discipline rooms. So we've got a room for all of our designers, regardless of what project they're working on, to go in and geek out over typography. Our engineers have their own room and they get to geek out about the newest Rails version. Project managers can share techniques on how to do client management. And then we've also got a water cooler where we share what we're having for lunch and, of course, your silly cat videos, because you have to have a place for that. All of these rooms are public. They're all open, so anybody in the company can drop in on any room, including client projects that they're not currently working on. And again, this goes into that over-communication. Put all of your knowledge and questions and whatnot into this open, public, transparent space that anybody can access. We've got a lot of other hacks in our HipChat room too, so if you want to know more, let me know. Pandora guy, I want to talk to you. I'm really excited to show you guys how we use this Jira board. So when we started adopting Atlassian, which I think was something like 2, 3 years ago, we primarily just used it for software development. And really, in more recent months, we've started using it to run our entire business. So everything from resolving changes on invoices that go out to our clients, we create a Jira ticket for that. This is really something that solves what's unique about our company. So again, we're a distributed team. It means that we don't share an office. And one downfall of that is that you don't get to run into your CEO while getting coffee. And you don't grab his ear with that idea that you have for making the company better. Well, this is what we did to solve that problem. This idea wall, which is really just a Jira project, we came up with this to capture any idea that anybody has, whether it is for making the company better or it's just some random 2 a.m. idea that somebody went, wouldn't it be cool to make better user interfaces for all gas station pumps? And they throw it in here. This is what drives what might we work on a hackathon, what maybe we work on a 20% time side project. And it also directly has an impact on company strategies and what we want to implement, what people are happy about, unhappy about. And we go through this every week during the leadership meeting. We also use Atlassian products, particularly HipChat and Confluence, to drive our internal custom products as well. So one of the things that we've heard from our team as a distributed 40-50-person team is that we all know that we're doing awesome projects, but we don't always know who's working on them, what they're working on, when they're working on them. And so we built this company dashboard with this beautiful visualization at the top that shows what are the current projects going on, who's working on them, and you can manipulate and interact with that to see basically the company pulse. This is really becoming the hub of our company. It's the heart of our company. And so I'm going to draw your attention to this guy right here, this question here. That is our response to throwing out our traditional employee handbook. So it used to be a static Word doc, static 5-page Word doc. And before Confluence questions came out, we just converted into tons of Confluence pages so that you can have an answer in the description, there could be conversation in the comments. And we also realized that, hey, our team mostly lives in HipChat. And that's the place where most of the questions about how the company works, HR policies, ideas, HipChat is where that surfaced. And so we wrote a script, a Qbot script, along with some Rails backend magic, where in the HipChat feed, if you type something with hashtag tell me, it would create a Confluence page inside our knowledge base space. And this, because it's the company dashboard, pulls from that Confluence space and randomizes those questions here so that people can get more of a sense of what documentation is in our company. More geeking out over that HipChat thing is hashtag tell me, gives you that, creates that question, and it returns an ID from that Confluence page in the HipChat room. If you answer with that ID, it actually updates the Confluence page as well. And so it really crowdsources that question and answer directly from HipChat. Now I hear that Atlassian is making this a real thing, so we've got a kind of janky prototype of this.
You have a
But it's working
patent
really
pending,
well.
maybe you could collect some royalties.
And we are hoping in the process of switching this over to Confluence questions as well. We've already got that moved over on the knowledge side. We're kind of just waiting for the API. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. This is open source, by the way. This company dashboard is called Houston. You can find it at intridia.github.com, or Intridia GitHub space. It's called Houston, and you can clone it and get it up and running for your own company with minimal coding tech savviness required. So it's friendly for project managers as well. So let me know if you want to use it or is starting to use it. We'd love to hear how. So again, all these tools from Atlassian, Jira, Confluence, HipChat in particular, is what allows us to make better decisions and be more human in our everyday workplace. So thank you so much. Questions? Do you have time?
Yeah,
Okay.
when is group video chat going to be deployed? You guys said that you guys.
When it's ready.
I wish I could answer that, because I would love to say tomorrow.
All right.
What do you use for your source control? So you
For our
mentioned,
source control?
yeah, your pull requests.
Oh, well, we actually use GitHub.
That's all right. So, and the integration with Confluence and Jira or HipChat is good?
We do integration to HipChat. I mean, just with the commit hooks and all that. We don't have that much integration to Jira and Confluence. Every now and then we'll copy and paste links to specific PRs, but that Jira, the Jira Agile board is kind of our stab at integration.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up we have a quick hello from Emily, who's one of our brilliant designers at Atlassian. Woo! Say hi. Woo-hoo!
Hey guys, just a quick announcement. I'm Emily, designer at Atlassian, one of about 40 now, which is surprising. Most people don't know we have that many designers. love for you guys to sign up, and we'll give you some cash, some swag, and we'd love for you to give us feedback on our products so we can continue to make them better for you guys. So that's all I have. Thanks.
All right. As I mentioned to a couple people, we started using Atlassian products back in 2010. Initially, the QA team came to us and said, you must buy us Jira. You get 30 days to set it up, right? And so I went to the website, I'm like, hey, this stuff is pretty affordable. Let's just get an unlimited license for everything. That was before Stash, before HipChat, before any of that stuff. So as soon as they made that decision, which they agonized over, I don't know, 2 or 3 years or something, they immediately launched into, well, obviously we had a bug tracker before, we also had a test case management tool before, like now that we get this snazzy new Jira thing, we want a more powerful test case management tool, and wouldn't it be nice if it actually worked with Jira, which the previous one didn't. And so they spent another year, analyzed a dozen different products, actually ran a couple of them within the entire group for a while. So they took a project and dumped it into one other product in QMetry, and they decided from their perspective as QA people that QMetry worked well enough with Jira. It was a big step up from what they had before, and what they were really looking for more than anything was flexibility, get more test case reuse, more test results, accumulation across teams and things like that. Our product's kind of big and gnarly, and so that helped. So that's how we ended up with QMetry a couple of years ago. We've had all of our projects in it for less than a year at this point. Some people have been using it over a year, but some people only switched from our previous tool a few months ago. Generally, nobody's suggested yet that we go looking for something else. I guess it was a good decision. It's working out. Obviously, one of the criteria to select it was the Jira integration. I already mentioned that we looked at at least one other product in some detail. So what we've gotten out of it, the benefits of having QMetry in addition to Jira is, and from the integration in particular, so QMetry has all kinds of benefits all by itself, but if you are doing Jira Agile and you're doing Scrum, which is something we've sort of drifted towards for several years, and this will be the first year where everybody's actually working that way all year, then you really get really nice traceability, where if you get your stories in the backlog, QMetry, you do one-time mapping for your project. So not every project has to have all the same fields going to the same places, but once they map it, keeps that in sync. You edit your stories, your requirements get updated in QMetry. You can track to make sure that all the requirements are addressed by some test cases, and then once you do actually do some testing, if you find problems, you can generate Jira issues, bugs with all the information that QMetry has. Maybe came from some automation tool like Selenium, or from something that was driven out of Bamboo, and it puts that back into QMetry, so you get that sort of a closed loop. So that's been very useful, and it's actually getting a lot of attention from other teams. That we have a lot of other teams that use Jira, and a lot of them are starting to do more agile, but there's been sort of a hodgepodge of homegrown test case management solution, and so this is getting a lot of attention because, like, gee, it would be a lot of work for us to modify our own, and this works pretty well out of the box. It's nice because not everybody has to always go into QMetry for everything. So a lot of the basic information, your last test result, things like that show up right in Jira, kind of what you might be used to from Stash or Bamboo or Fisheye. The similar kind of a thing happens with QMetry, so that's really nice to have that in there. And you get the bidirectional links. So if somebody's working in QMetry and they want to see what's been going on with a Jira issue, they can see it right there. They can click on it, get the Jira page, and vice versa. If you're looking at a Jira issue you see the test case failed on some platform somewhere, you want to know, okay, what's the history of that, how long has it been failing, you click, takes you right to the place where all that historical data exists in QMetry. So kind of like what you get with the different Atlassian products where the data is really stored in some database once and then it shows up in other places. I think QMetry's done a pretty good job of making that work. You don't have to push buttons or schedule things. People edit stories, people update issues, it just shows up. So it's sort of a background thing that gets propagated. And one of the challenges some of our colleagues have had that haven't brought into QMetry quite yet, that might be using other commercial products, is a lot of the really prominent products in the industry started before Atlassian, before everything was sort of web-centric. And QMetry started off as an internal solution, and it was offered as SaaS before they actually sold the software. And so it was always web-centric, and that's a really good fit with the Atlassian products, Jira in particular, because you don't have this history of there's a Windows client and then some of that kind of works on the web page, right? It's always been in a web page from the beginning, so it's less jarring going back and forth between that versus some of the other things that are out there. So this is an example of how the test information shows up in Jira. Just sort of a generic screenshot showing, where in the details you would see the description and some of the steps. This shows the status. So the nice thing about QMetry, the reason we got in the first place is all the permutations, right? You have a test case that may apply to different products or be reused in different test suites, and you'll have a matrix of results across many platforms, and then this thing just explodes into this huge collection of data, and there is no good home for it in Jira. So QMetry stores all that, and then in the context of a Jira issue, you see the latest thing, which platform failed. Just the last time we ran the test, and then if you need to know more, you can click through that and get into QMetry and see all of that stuff in there. So, there it is. I didn't even know I could do build on here. This is an example of how some of the links show up. So you got the IDs there, which is showing there's a link from a test case to one or more defects, and these things don't have to be one-to-one. You can have multiple defects resulting from a test case. You can have multiple test cases tied to a single defect. Again, you can click through these things and go into the other system. And then, of course, you get the flashy little dashboard thing going on. When we got one of the QMetry folks in the room here, I'm hoping they've been promising a new release for a better part of the year, and it's always like 3 months away. And what I haven't heard is whether they finally redid all these gadgets in the Google format so we could use them in Confluence. Yeah. We'd really like to bring that in there. So I did warn them that I would point that out. And so this is just a summary of where we are so far. So like I said, I think it's a pretty good fit with a lot of the Atlassian products. We do have some, right now, all the teams that are currently actually using it are using a single instance that we're running in a dedicated environment. But we do have at least one team that's considering actually using the SaaS. We do have some teams that are using Atlassian on demand, and so it's nice to have that option, and it's nice that a lot of the integration functionality works without needing to install any plugins or needing to be on, they use the APIs in a way that works where it either can be on premises or SaaS. There's obviously some challenges around accounts and things when you do that, but at least you have those options. It works pretty well for distributed teams in large part because it's just a web application out there. So if you use any other web application, this will work at least as well as that. And it's been really handy that in addition to supporting all the permutations of data and platform that we were looking for, it also, something that wasn't the criteria for us, but that's been useful as more teams adopt it, is it leaves a lot of the customization flexibility per project, which I guess that's similar to Jira as well, where you can have different workflows and different custom fields. So it matches that. So that's been good too. So that's what I prepared to share about QMetry and how we're using it. And, you know, I think we got, what, 30 minutes, an hour for questions or something like that. Yeah.
So in order to integrate with Atlassian, do you need one user license on QMetry per Jira license?
Not necessarily. So I've been actually pushing them to modify the licensing model a bit. One thing that's nice about doing business with them is they've adopted the Atlassian model where it's all transparent, no bullshit. You can go to their website, see what the pricing is. Interestingly enough, unlike a lot of companies, because they come from a SaaS background, it's actually cheaper for them to host it. They'd rather not be troubleshooting your environment. So you have to pay extra to download it.
Yeah,
Freaks some people out, but I get it. I would probably do the same thing myself. We pay extra to download it, and then we turn around and say, and now we want you to give it to us half off, right? So, I don't know. So their licensing model is either floating or named users. We originally started with floating for internal bureaucratic reasons. We are now switching over to named users. So the floating user license is very flexible. So you can just buy a few and when use them. So most of your programmers are not going to be spending their whole day in QMetry, right? What seems to be lacking, and this really is most problematic for us when it comes to the click-through, right? You see the latest results in there, you want to drill down. They historically haven't had a concept of something like a read-only user. So I've been trying to gently persuade them that that option needs to be available. So along with the Google gadgets, maybe you guys can see if you can make that happen. So that will make it a lot easier because then you would only pay for the users that are actually creating and executing test cases, and you wouldn't have that data trapped in there. Now it's not the end of the world. You can at least see some of it in Jira, but it just kind of feels like it's there begging to be clicked, and then you click it and you don't have the right to go there. You know, that just feels wrong. Especially we're running it integrated with Active Directory. So the reality is anybody actually has an account, and so we've been kind of struggling. The good news is we have about 2,000 users in Jira, and even though they all technically could have logged into QMetry, in the past year only 200 have. So we haven't had a license problem. But yeah.
To Michael's point, this was an internally developed product for use in our consulting gigs, and then over time we morphed it and said, you know, there's people who want to use it as a commercial product. So the license manager we have today is a homegrown one. Didn't anticipate these types of scenarios, but in our next release we're going to a
I guess nobody over there has ever heard of FlexLM. So.
We have, and yeah, we'll be paying some money for something somewhere soon.
That's it, just a licensing question?
Thank you so much. Okay, so this is the new fun thing that we're going to try. And basically, we're going to ask for a volunteer. And you'll have 1 minute to share something cool that you're doing with an Atlassian product, like some cool trick that you think is interesting. Or you'll have a minute to share something you want to troubleshoot with. So you'll tell us your name, where you work, what you do, and then give us a little information about that. Once that minute is up, we have 3 minutes for everyone else to either ask questions about this cool thing that you're doing and get more information about it, or try to give you some information on how to troubleshoot whatever problem you're having. So do we have any volunteers from the crowd? Just 1 minute, just 60 seconds.
Come on, this is yours then.
Okay, nobody's jumping in.
Robin,
Quick,
you to
cool
share
thing
anything?
you're doing.
Okay, here's the deal.
Oh, wait.
Here's what we use. We
Come
do.
on.
Now I'll just stand here. So help me figure out how we parameterize a JQL query. So we have wiki pages for each release that we do, and we use fixed version to display what's going into that release. It goes across projects. So one of my issues is that I can't create fixed versions that go across projects. But second problem is I can't automate anything because I can't parameterize that. So I have to every time go change the JQL query for every page, for every release. And I'd like to just be able to feed it in a Confluence template to change the JQL. Anybody done that?
So what's your name and what do you do?
I'm Robin, and I'm from Xero, and I'm the hostess of this event here at Xero. So, but that's what I do. I'm a program manager here. My focus is getting scalability and transparency throughout the organization, and that's why we leverage the wiki to display stuff so people don't have to dive into Jira and go figure out what's going into a release. So that's my 1 minute. Do I get a prize?
Well, if you don't have more people, then it's yours. Okay.
All right, so
Who else?
does anybody else have any guidance or suggestions or recommendations?
Is the
As soon as
JQL
you figure it out, we'll pay you to get a copy of it, yeah.
Okay.
So you want to have the list of issues displayed in Confluence? Or-
I do have the list of issues displayed in Confluence. I go change the Jira macro and go figure out what this sprint number is and go change the JQL on the page, and then I create another page right off of the same release for the next release, and then have to go figure out the Jira, the fixed version and sprint numbers, and so I'd love something like a template to be able to feed those things in. It would change the JQL, and I could automate my creation of those release pages.
Sure. Well, there certainly is the Confluence blueprints, which are essentially a way of creating a page.
Yeah.
So, I know.
But I'd have to be a
Atlassian-
developer.
At Atlassian, we have a mantra which is be the change you seek. So the thing is that you can build this and you can sell it on the marketplace.
Right, if I was,
If you were-
if that was my job,
I know.
yeah.
I can't answer whether or not it actually is available or not, but
Yeah.
certainly
I looked, it's not.
Okay.
Sounds like ship it, Dave.
But I think it would be great, because I think it's I think getting the data from Jira onto the wiki is awesome, because Jira is intimidating to people outside of the development
So
community.
I don't have an answer for you, we haven't solved this yet, but what we do to keep distracting our programmers with stuff that we don't make money on is we use one of the Atlassian partners, and we basically, as these ideas come up, we're like, well, how much for that?
Yeah.
And then if it's quick enough and cheap enough, we'll just write them a check and get a custom add-on. We got dozens of those at this point, so I don't know if you guys have tried that before.
You're at Dell?
Yeah.
I'm at a startup.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, so we do something similar. We have to give these executive summaries because they don't want to be digging into Jira, right? When you do that, you have your list of Jira tickets that went into that fixed version, but do you then do another step where you throw out the ones that are really technical, hardcore, geeky that, most people don't understand? Like, do you take an editorial pass after that?
I've done that, and whether it's at a story or epic level, and we'll put a business-friendly description field in there, so it's not like it's not the story name or the thing that's good. But I've typically done epics with the fixed version to make it more business-friendly.
Great. Next.
Yeah.
Anyone?
So if that didn't answer your question, we will write down that question and hunt somebody down to write a blog post about it.
Yeah, awesome.
To share with you.
She deserves a poo too.
All right, so anyone else? Just quick something you're working on, you have a question about?
Something that you'd like to share.
Okay, I'll ask one. Oh, you,
Okay.
please, go ahead.
I'm Dave, and I work on the marketplace team at Atlassian, and we've just been building a new system which is called Atlassian Connect, which essentially allows you to write your own SaaS-based plugin, which you can run on your own server. Primarily right now, just for the on-demand Atlassian products like Jira and Confluence. So anyway, essentially it allows you to run things out of process. So if you have some kind of taxing job that you run in Jira, such as an archive or some kind of process which you want to run, and it's slowing your Jira instance down, you can take that and ship it to another server entirely and run it there.
Woo! Very cool.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for our lovely speaker about how that works? Go ahead, please.
When will Connect be available behind the firewall?
Actually, that's a good question. We're actually working on that. It's I should get in short. Yeah, there's actually some technical difficulties around that. Just due to the fact that most corporate firewalls don't allow outgoing connections terribly easily. So we need to choose a good tunneling solution.
Wouldn't you borrow that code from the Bamboo agent?
Potentially.
Just saying.
I think it's more, there are many ways of doing that from the server.
And also,
but
while
then-
you're borrowing it, can you make it more reliable?
That's something that exactly right. Yeah. So you can write your server to respond to certain actions that have happened in Jira. So say, for example, an issue has changed. Your app, which is running in the cloud, will get a little event saying, "Hey, this issue has changed," and you can take action based on that. As for the behind the firewall question, there are things we're working on, but most of them are browser-based problems and security-related issues, which we're going to hopefully solve in the short term.
Anyone else?
Anyone else? Otherwise, I'm going in. Okay. So I would like to share one video, 1.5 minute video. So a couple of weeks back, we have a hackathon here at Pandora. So I kind of was a part of one team where we created some kind of internal staff directory, and you see some of the actors are here, so you can just kind of recognize who are there. So after 1.5 minutes, basically I can take up the question, I can show you the actual tool, how it works. Okay, only if I know how to do this. Can you see? Oh. Okay. Ready? So you may not be able to hear the audio.
Back in the day, there was a snap directory. And believe it or not, this is how they what is their name? What department? As you might expect, there was some frustration. Frustration needed an outlet. Me too. Let's make it 3. But please remember to wash your hands. Coming soon to a desktop near you. Also available for download on iTunes and Android with and furniture. Batteries not included. Not recommended for people suffering from heart disease or pregnancy. Paid for by payments and people who purchase consoles and handhelds.
That's all it is. Very great. So in case you are wondering what this tool about, anyway, if you guys have any question, let me know. Otherwise, I can just talk with myself. Can somebody help me here?
Escape.
Apple Q.
He's frustrated.
Don't throw it.
Okay. So. We can just move it after that.
As we figured it out, at Pandora we have, Exchange in-house, and we can, look up the address book and find people's names, their email, phone number, basic information. We also have an LDAP tool where this is kind of the original database of all of our employees and information. But both of those don't quite give you as much information about who their reporting manager is, what the structure is, who reports to that person. But they came up with this very simple way of finding all that information, and they called it Finder. So this is what tool that they created on the hackathon.
So basically, this is the we allow to have 3 days, 2.5 days of the coding, and you have to come with a video and the tool. You can fake it, whatever, make sure that people really believe what you're doing. So that's but fortunately, this is a real tool, and people are really using. And what you're seeing is the actual demo of the tool. So as you can see, this is the profile information, and this basically where if you click on this link here, if I go. You can zoom it into that particular person's location, desk location. It will try to find out the person, and it can show you. Come on.
So you
Drones
said you
were
did
embarrassing,
2 days, how often?
Yeah. So it's you. Yeah.
That is creepy.
But you need that as a company.
Yeah, we have floor
I
plans
don't want
for
that on me.
we have floor plans for all the offices. So Chicago, New York, Santa Monica, Oakland.
It will
and
zoom
then
in into
it zooms
that.
in exactly where they are, and it gives you all the information that you need for that person, and all the reporting, everybody who reports to them, and then also who they report to.
Yeah, and also if you see here, you can see their favorite stations and what they are doing. So this is not really truth, right? So I'm just putting some random data here. So if you click on, you'll see all the people, the same kind of attributes or same skill set. And also, if you want to see the reporting structure, you can see all the way to our CEO. So that's pretty much was the tool about, and it took us 2.5 days to really work on and can have something available. Any questions?
So you said it took 2.5 days, so you guys get time to
So
work
on the Wednesday morning, we have breakfast. All the team, engineering folks, and everybody come together. Either they start hunting for the people with the right skills, or they already stolen the people. So they kind of just come up with the idea. Everybody try to kind of keep their idea secret, because Friday is the time when we have demo, and where we kind of try to kind of showcase our idea in the video that we talked about. So everybody, from there basically your actual time starts, and everybody gets back. And you are not supposed to work on your real work project. Everybody is allowed to work on this particular project only. And nobody asks you really what you're doing, because you're working on this hackathon project. And basically, you do what you want. And most of the time, people try to do real projects, but sometimes you can't do it, correct? So people do fake up, and they do real nice things. So it's all about what you can produce in a marketing way or something like that. So you try to kind of please the audience in a way with a good video or a kind of a good presentation. And there are the kind of few different types. One is what's the best hack, Pandora hack. Is it something with our real product, or something non-Pandora hack, or something where you're trying to kind of just kind of a best presentation, or maybe best idea but not well presented. So there are kind of these 3-4 different categories where people vote, and then kind of a winner kind of just emerge out of that particular thing. You can only vote one of that particular category.
And so do you just do it once a year? Or?
Every 6 months we do.
Every 6 months.
So I always look forward to it. So now one thing will be in November time frame, something like that.
Cool.
Yeah. Yes.
So the funny thing is that I think Gail and I were both laughing because in Atlassian we've actually built a similar tool called Atlassian Directory.
Okay.
Down to we go one level creepier than floor plans. We actually superimpose people's desks on the Google map. So really, people talk about adding Wi-Fi tracking capabilities, but I was just a bit worried about where they'd find me. So
I look forward to that feature. Maybe next time we'll implement it.
I think next time we're going to do GPS on mobile devices.
So I guess the question is, if Atlassians build it and Pandora's build it, and there's like 2 of these on the marketplace, why is the people item in Confluence itself so lame and useless? I mean, can I give somebody $1,000 and get one of these things, or how does that work?
The directory isn't for sale, it's just an internal tool.
Yeah.
Well, I can see that, but everybody's building it over and over again.
We all need it, right? We all need it.
Yeah.
We do something similar with an XSLT transform. We just export the stuff from ADP and literally and all the reporting structure, and then we transform it dynamically just to put in our people directory.
Yeah, but I mean, even SharePoint has a lame org browser. I mean, can't Confluence do one better?
So what's interesting is that Atlassian Answers was super popular, and that's kind of how we came to produce Confluence questions. So you never know. Maybe if our directory is super popular and everybody's really excited about it.
Maybe you should
it
write
happen.
it and put it on the marketplace.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, I just want, I will share this tool and maybe have some laugh. Thank you guys. So we are in the 3 minutes past 8 o'clock. If anybody has anything to share, or maybe we can do a raffle right now. 3 people.
Well,
Who want
only
to-
2 people were. 2 of them were Atlassians. No, it's just going around. Yeah, so thank you guys all so much for coming. Thank you to Xero for hosting and QMetry for also being a sponsor. We would love to hear feedback from you. You can go to org.atlassian.com, click on the feedback form, and give us some information about what you thought about the event or other stuff you'd like to do. I'm Holly at Atlassian. You can always reach out to me as well if you have any questions about anything. And you can reach out to Raju at San Francisco_CA@AtlassianUserGroup.com.
And if it is helps, Raju@pandora.com is a more simpler approach. Thank you guys.
And Xero's hiring.